Hello and welcome to Clutch Talk 101. I'm going to be doing today's power rankings for week 9. Can you believe it? It's week 9. It's over halfway through the season. It's been a super chaotic year and one of the more entertaining for sure, but one of the most unpredictable years that I've seen. It's just a great watch. I would say not a lot of the things that I'm a fan of have gone my way, but it is what it is. Season, it's year to year. It changes every year. So, all right, I'm gonna start from the top to the bottom. Number one, and y'all can hate all you want. Kansas City Chiefs. I'm just doing this off of like when I talk about the top 5 teams. I feel like they're all close enough to each other that you can kind of base your rankings off of what they would do in the postseason. I know it's power rankings. This is supposed to be fluid, like Stephen A. Smith likes to say, but like the first 3 teams are so hard to decide between because the Bills have looked unstoppable at times, but then there's been games where they look like they're barely getting by with the Ravens. I mean, they only beat the Packers by 10. They had one good half of football against the other Packers last weekend, and were down 20-10 against the Ravens. They lost to the Dolphins, who are one of the contenders now, especially after getting Bradley Chubb. So I just think the way Mahomes comes back in games, until somebody like I know the Bills beat them, but the Chiefs have beat them so many times beforehand and in past seasons. Obviously last year was an epic game, but the Chiefs, for the most part, have the Bills number. So, and at number 2, the only undefeated team in the league, the Philadelphia Eagles. I would have them at 1 if I had seen just a little more from Jalen Hurts. He's playing great. There, you can't really ask for much more on his performance and his numbers and everything, but I mean, he hasn't had Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen type passing plays or anything like that, but he has two. It's more of a team thing with the Eagles. I mean, they are covered at every single level, especially after adding Robert Quinn. Um, as of right now, if I had to pick a Super Bowl, that's probably who I would go with. Number 3, Buffalo Bills. And like I said, a lot of people probably disagree with me, but it just seems like the Chiefs have kind of had Buffalo's number. Buffalo has looked like a juggernaut most of the time. There's been games where they do not look like a juggernaut of a team. And that's the only reason I have them at 3. It's because they play really close and makes you nervous on like really important games. Besides against the Chiefs, I mean they handled them, but I mean Ravens, Dolphins, Packers, who have been trash this year, kind of sketches you out. Uh, Number 4, this was kind of hard for me because I'm not very into Kirk Cousins. I'm really not. Number 4, Minnesota Vikings. I absolutely love their roster. I think the Vikings and the Eagles probably have the best rosters in the league. I think Minnesota is only the only spot they're lacking really is at corner. And I mean Patrick Peterson has actually stepped up the past couple weeks, but I got to see something from Kirk. The whole roster is good. They got great running backs, great receivers, top 10 defense. I mean, I really like how they're playing. It's this Kirk Cousins playoff games, night games, important games. Don't trust them. Seen them. I mean, look at the only important game they played this year, the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, Kirk Cousins looked like crap. So, I was extremely tempted to put number 5 above the Vikings, the Miami Dolphins. I was probably my hardest decision out of this whole list, honestly, because the Vikings did beat the Dolphins just recently, but I just think that the Dolphins are going to have a little more than the Vikings just because they added Bradley Chubb. I'm being a little more patient. I know I said that the Chiefs lost to the Bills. That may seem inconsistent of me. The Chiefs or the Bills beat the Chiefs, but I had the Chiefs number one, and I told you guys, oh, postseason. Well, I think the Dolphins postseason and overall are a better team than the Vikings. But the fact that Tua has kind of been injury prone, and the fact that the Dolphins got a little more to prove. They haven't been there like the Chiefs have. They haven't even been sniffed a Super Bowl. So maybe 4 or 5 weeks down the road, I probably will have the Dolphins in the top 3 or 4. But right now, I'm just putting them at 5. I think that's a safe, high enough spot for them. I think that's a good spot. Number 6, a lot of y'all would think this is a reach. The Seattle Seahawks. They are playing the best team football in the league right now. They're probably the most consistent team in football right now. I think the worst part of their season is when they let New Orleans score 39 on them. And I just don't think they prepared for Taysom Hill. I think that was the main issue with that loss. But their running game, their consistent quarterback, like to have a great running back like that, and then to have two great receivers and then a defense to back it up, that's honestly overachieving for the kind of players they have. I really like the Seahawks. They're all playing as a unit right now. I really respect that. Number 7, I got the Dallas Cowboys. Um, they just, I know they just beat the Bears 49-29, but I mean, y'all got to admit, ever since that came back, I know they crushed the Lions and I know they crushed the Browns. But if you look at how Dak Prescott has been playing quarterback compared to Cooper Rush, it's doesn't wow me. He barely manages the offense. He makes a good 3 or 4 throws throughout the game that are like, oh, okay. But you play the Lions and the Bears. These upcoming weeks when they got some challenging games, that's where I'm gonna really see where the Dallas Cowboys are. I'll probably put them in the top 5 too if they can show that they can beat legitimate opponents. So I was a Cooper Rush guy. I thought that he was just running the offense so methodically and smoothly, and I thought that they'd be one of the harder, tougher teams to beat. I have never been that big of a Dak fan. I think he's more so an athlete and skill more so than like a leader of the team. Uh, and he just doesn't manage that offense as well. Dak Prescott had his best year, his rookie year, when he had an all time Cowboys team. Now they're decimated, and look how he's been. So I just gotta wait a little bit on the Cowboys. Wait to see if they can beat some legitimate opponents. Number 8, I got the Tennessee Titans. I think this is one of the scarier teams that could get hot. Um, they are hot right now. Obviously, they started off I think 0-2 and won 4 or 5 straight. Um, Derrick Henry is when he is rolling, it is so easy to operate that offense. Those are one of the few teams that if you have bad quarterback play, doesn't matter a whole lot unless that quarterback starts changing the plays and calling plays for himself and he's making mistakes. And Derrick Henry's running like this, they're almost unstoppable because that Tennessee's defense looked like crap in the beginning of the year because Derrick Henry was hurt and they weren't running the ball as well as they are now. That means their defense is tired. Tennessee's defense recently, since they've been just dominating the time of possession, their defense has looked really good. And I think that's one of the best defense. I know the numbers won't show it, but I think that's one of the best defenses in the league um when rested. I think that they are legit, and I think they are a scary team because I mean, they could beat any of the top teams if Derrick Henry had a great game. That is Derrick Henry. I think is the only running back in the league that will change your wins and losses. I think a lot of the other ones can manage that. A lot of other great running backs can make your team better, but Derrick Henry determines wins and losses. Honestly, um, number 9. The San Francisco 49ers, I think they are an extremely scary team as well. If it wasn't for the Eagles, I'd probably have the 49ers as Super Bowl favorites right now for the NFC to get to the Super Bowl or to win the NFC championship. Um, Christian McCaffrey was a great addition. He if he can stay healthy, that team is going to be so hard to beat. Um, you can use him in so many different ways. Garoppolo's been playing a lot better than he was in the beginning of the season. At the end of last year, he's actually putting up okay numbers now. Kittle's finally coming through. Their defense is incredible. I know they just let the Chiefs score 40 on them, but Mahomes is Mahomes. I think he's the quarterback of this era. I think he's the best, bar none. Um, but I think the 49ers with McCaffrey in there, the way he can receive and run and how good their offensive line is and they got Debo coming back, they got Ayuk playing well, they got Kittle playing well. I just that this team is one of the other teams just like the Seattle Seahawks. They're just playing so cohesive that it's hard to beat them because they're just playing so together. The number 10 I got the Baltimore Ravens. They've been dropping a little bit on my list, just because I mean they did win, they did beat Tampa on Thursday, and I that was kind of an impressive win given that I mean looked like Lamar couldn't get any footing, the grass was coming up. I don't think anybody could make any major cuts. The home that's part of home field advantage. If you think that's gonna ruin your other team's chances of winning, if I'm a grass keeper, I'm I'm making it to my team's preferences. That's part of home field advantage. But I just think that the Baltimore Ravens are got a super high ceiling. Like they're another team that could. I don't think they can make a Super Bowl this year, but they could definitely make an AFC Championship if they turn it around a little bit defensively, and if Lamar could get a little better passing, but a little better at passing. But I'm not gonna pick the Ravens for a Super Bowl until they get him an actual receiver, not just some practice squad dude like Devin Duvernay or Rashad Bateman. Um, Number 11, I got the Cincinnati Bengals. I was thinking about dropping them a little lower, but you got to think Jamar Chase decides whether Joe Burrow is going to play well or not. I mean, you can have all these solid weapons around Joe as long as you want. Look at the Browns did to him. They made Joe Burrow look human, and Joe Burrow had been going off with Jamar Chase the past 2 or 3 weeks, and him being hurt really impacts their team. But he is coming back. Luckily, he's not hurt for the season. And once they get him back, they're gonna get another run going. But without Jamar Chase, I don't think they're not that great without Jamar, honestly. Um, Number 12, I got the New England Patriots. Um, I think that Bill Belichick is really, really coaching up this team, but I feel like he needs to let someone run the offense, and I really feel like he needs to let someone he needs to give an offensive and a defensive coordinator position. I feel like Belichick's really lost right now, and Mac Jones is good. He had a good year last year, and if I'm a franchise without a quarterback, I would take Mac Jones for sure. But the way Bailey Zappi played, I just think he's a dude that can m- make clutch plays at the end of the game to help you win. And I just think that he's a baller. He likes to make plays. I really don't know what Belichick's doing right now. I think he's kind of lost. Number 13, I got who they just defeated, the New York Jets. They're probably just going to keep getting lower and lower and lower on my list. Brees Hall was kind of carrying that offense. Zach Wilson's coming down to earth, looking like kind of like crap, honestly. I like Zach Wilson, but he's not looking like himself. Um, I just expect that they're going to continue to fall, as well as number 14, the New York Giants. Seattle schooled them. They really did. I think that the Giants are, to be honest, like it would be a crazy thing if this happened, and it would, I mean, probably not going to, but it would not surprise me if they only had like one or two more wins the rest of the year. Daniel Jones is not good. and their defense is solid. Like I said throughout the year, they got really really sound tacklers. Like it seems like they never had gang tackle. It's just always one dude solid tackle taking them down. Like no yak. I think their defense is good in that aspect. I think they're solid, but I don't think they're a great defense. And I just think that the Giants are going to continue to fall. I think they came back to reality this week. I think that was the kryptonite, the Seahawks type of team, the teams that play kind of like them, but with a little better players, are the ones that are going to beat them. Uh, Number 15, I got the New Orleans Saints. They're not well put. They need a quarterback. Period. They're one of those teams that has a great roster. I don't think their coach is all that great. Dennis Allen is okay, but I think he's more of a coordinator fit than a coach fit, to be honest. Um, their defense is playing good, but their offense is week to week. One week they'll score 39 like did against Seattle, but another week they'll look completely lost and abysmal. Saints kind of a lost year, and I know they've I think they need to start a rebuild, to be honest. Uh, Number 16, the Atlanta Falcons. Great young roster. Um, they need Desmond Ritter. Marcus Mariota holds them back, period. I'm sorry. He's clutch. He has a good game every once in a while. He has a good completion percentage. He's efficient. It's gonna the best it's gonna get you is to like the 7th seed in a wild card. And Desmond Ritter has the potential to be way better than that. So I just they're taking their wins while they can right now. I think they're nervous to move on to Ritter because they had Matt Ryan for so long, but Marcus Mariota is not the answer. I'm sorry, he's not. Number 17, I got the Cleveland Browns. They're coming off a great win off Cincinnati. Nick Chubb looked awesome, like always. Him and Derrick Henry are the best running backs in the league, bar none. Um, and they're a team that could make a run. They really are. I know they've had a few bad games in a row, but Brissett looked really good. Um, he's great for that backup kind of role. He's probably the best backup in the league, to be honest. He just looked efficient when Nick Chubb's rolling. He makes good decisions when he takes shots. That's another thing I noticed. He has a good deep ball. He had a few deep balls to Peoples Jones and Cooper. I was like, wow, I have not seen Jacoby Brissett pass like that. So maybe it opened up a little part of their offense that they haven't quite seen yet. But I like the Cleveland Browns a little bit. Number 18, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So about till about when they lost to the Ravens, it really changed my mind. But like the week before that, I knew that the Buccaneers, they just seem off. Tom Brady seems off. The divorce going on and everything, and yeah, I just think that the Buccaneers are just not with it this year. Number 19, I got the Los Angeles Chargers. Los Angeles Chargers are probably the biggest underachievers of all time. Uh, every year, as a franchise, they just they underachieve every single year, kind of like the Cowboys before they started doing good. Just all this talent, all this hype, Super Bowl talks, MVP talks, and they're just middle of the pack. People are talking all this trash about the Broncos, and they beat them by a muffed punt. People are talking all this trash about the Cleveland Browns, but the Chargers beat them off a missed field goal. So I just don't think very highly of the Chargers this year. Or any year to be honest. They just are very high talent, don't know how to win. And their coach just keeps risking throwing the game away by going for it on 4th down like a 10-year-old playing Madden. Number 20, I got the Arizona Cardinals. They've just been getting more and more inconsistent. How every week they'll have a great week, and the next week they don't look like they are even a wild card team. So until they get some consistency going, I don't think that. I mean, they could have beat the Minnesota Vikings, but I just think their game plan was completely wrong. I think Eno Benjamin should have got more rushes. They should have kept going to DeAndre since that's the only receiver he'll go to, um, or seems like he has any kind of connection with. Um, so Arizona's just really inconsistent, too inconsistent for me. Um, Number 21, the Chicago Bears. I know they just lost by 20 to the Cowboys, but there aren't the Cowboys considered one of the best defenses in the league? Because I'm pretty sure I had a lot of people on Twitter tell me that the Cowboys have the best defense in the league over Philly, over Buffalo, and I'm confused because I thought the Bears were one of the worst offenses in the league, but they just hung 29 on them. Um, I think they ran for over 200 yards on them. So I'm not sure what that was about, but I think the Bears offense is a lot better than a lot of people are giving them credit for, to be honest. And adding Chase Claypool was not the right decision. He's going to come out as the number one there. They have no other receivers besides Mooney. He's going to be ahead of Mooney just purely because of size. And he's going to be one of the most overrated wide receivers in the league. Again, kind of like when he first came out. I'm not a Claypool fan. He is a diva. He drops passes, thinks he deserves all these things, and he hasn't proven anything. He had like one 4 game stretch with Big Ben that he did pretty good in, and then ever since then he's been living off that. So next up we got the Washington Commanders at number 22. Um, I think Ron Rivera is a great coach, and I think that he's gonna make sure that this team doesn't embarrass themselves. I think Taylor going to Taylor Heineke was done way too late. I think the move to Carson Wentz in general was just really stupid. Uh, Anybody trading for him after this year clearly didn't watch him with the Colts last year. Uh, he's the biggest roller coaster ride in the NFL. But the Washington Commanders, I mean, I like Terry McLaurin. I mean, he's been the leader of that abysmal team for years now, and I like Ron Rivera. I like how they're fighting, but I mean, obviously they're not like a legit team. So um, number 23, I got the Green Bay Packers. Aaron having one of his worst year of his career, and the Green Bay Packers are they're just too injured. They traded away Devontae. Their running game isn't going as well as I thought that it would. I mean, they need to be a ground and pound team. They really do. And they need to have Aaron Rodgers just do some play action shit. And he can break out of the pocket. He can, after you have a run established, you'll have all the defenders running to the running back, and then you'll have Aaron Rodgers hitting his little dot that's wide open. Doesn't have to, because right now they're all the receivers are covered because they don't have crap for receivers. So get a running game going. Just commit. Like you might as well. Your season's almost lost. Change your offense. Just do it. Do change your offense to what would be the most successful. Um, Number 24, I got the Denver Broncos coming off a solid win last week against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I had high hopes for the Jaguars at the beginning of the year, and I think that it was a solid win. It was the first win of Russ's this season for Russ that where he looked like confident. He looked like he looked like he deserved that win and he fought for it and he looks like he's improved. Um, I'm hoping the Broncos can turn it around and make it a better season for themselves, but with all the players, Javonte Williams, Tim Patrick, Garrett Bowles, Randy Gregory, all on IR, and they're all great starters. I just think that their season's pretty much done. I mean, I'll give them a few more weeks just to see what they do off of that win. But good win. I was really happy, but we'll see. Um, Number 25, we got the Los Angeles Rams. I think they're completely lost without Odell Beckham there, without Von Miller there. All they have is Cooper Kupp, and they're gonna use him up just like they used up Todd Gurley. I feel bad for the dude because he is a top 3 receiver. He is so good. He is the Jerry Rice of the 2000s, 2010s and 20s. But he's gonna get used up. You're throwing him that much, and he's that covered. He's gonna get hurt, and I mean, it's scary. Their defense isn't holding up very well. I mean, Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, and then nothing else behind it. You're not gonna get anywhere with that. Uh, Number 26, Las Vegas Raiders. They're one of those teams that are just like top offense in the league, worst defense in the league. Um, Not top offense, but a top 7, 8 offense, and probably the worst defense in the league besides maybe the Texans, but and the Lions. But the Raiders, they looked hot for a minute there, and then they just got shut out 24-0. They didn't score any points on the Saints with Marshawn Lattimore out, so they're dead. They were my wild card pick at the beginning of the year, and I was clearly wrong on that, but they're dead. I mean, that defense is not going to do anything. If you look up Chandler Jones, go look up some Chandler Jones stats this year. He's probably the biggest free agent or trade acquisition bust of 2022. 27, I got the Pittsburgh Steelers. Kind of no hope this year with no offensive line. They're just not going to get anywhere with no offensive line and their defense banged up the way they are. No team can function with all backups playing on your offensive line. No team. Your quarterback can't throw, your running back can't run, and your receivers can't get open. Your chemistry with your receivers goes down. Then you're going in and out with your backups and your start. It's just no offensive line screws your entire team, the way you run your team. And then when you have a bad offense, you're 3 and out, and your defense is playing all the time, and then all your defensive players are going to get hurt. Number 26, 28, I have the Carolina Panthers. Uh, they should have won last week. Taking your helmet off was not the. It's. I saw an example. Someone speeding on the inter. I think Nick Wright said this. Someone speeding to the hospital. You get pulled over by the police, but you have your wife or your girlfriend in your car. Oh, my wife's pregnant. I'm on the way to the hospital. Okay, most cops, unless you ran into the wrong one, are gonna let you go and just okay, head there. I'll follow you. This should have been one of those moments. He just said TJ Moore caught a Hail Mary pass. A horrible season, like really, really disappointing season, and he took his helmet off because he was excited. He was off the field. He wasn't in the end zone anymore. It was probably the most bullcrap call I have seen all year. Excuse me one second. And then number 29, I got the Indianapolis Colts. That again, another really, really disappointing team. They benched a player that they traded for in Matt Ryan. I also thought Matt Ryan was one of the most overrated quarterbacks in the league. Uh, Even when he was in his prime, he always had such good weapons. Julio Jones, Roddy White, Michael Turner. I mean, he had Tony Gonzalez. He had really good weapons always, and he always came up short. Um, so I knew that was a bad acquisition to begin with. And then Jonathan Taylor not being himself. I think he's playing hurt. I think they used the crap out of him, and now he's uh, kind of lost. Number 30, I got the Jacksonville Jaguars. I was a high believer in them at the beginning of this year. Trevor Lawrence is a great quarterback, don't get me wrong, but they have absolutely nothing around him besides Travis Etienne. Christian Kirk is good, okay? But when you put him at your number one, I mean, that he was a number 3 receiver at Arizona. How do you expect to put him at your number one and expect like anything productive? I mean, consistently at least. Now them adding Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk, that duo will actually be solid next year, I think. Um, Number 31, I got the Detroit Lions. Super, super, super disappointing. Their defense is playing like they always have. I was really disappointed in that. I really thought that they were going to turn it around this year for their defense, at least with Aiden Hutchinson going there. I was like, okay, that's a J.J. Watt like type of player. I just figured he would be a huge difference maker. He has been, but not to the extent I thought he would be. And their secondary is probably seems like every year I think they have the worst secondary of all time, and they just they're they need to draft corners and safeties only in the draft. Like they need secondary. People just pass on them at will every single year. I just don't understand how a team can just, in a passing league, just have that bad of a secondary year in and year out. Like, they never try. They never try. So, I mean, they drafted that one Ohio State corner that one year, and he's still starting, and he's a flop. So, like, come on, Detroit. Get your defense together. 32, the Texans. I love Dameon Pierce, and I love Lovie Smith, but their roster is the worst in the NFL by a long shot. That NFL roster would probably lose to some college. I mean, that Texans roster would probably lose to some college teams. They have second and third stringers all over that roster. Um, so yeah, there's my list. It's been changing a lot this year. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. I know I only have like 13 or 14 subscribers. I got several hundred followers on Twitter. So everyone that's following me on Twitter, please subscribe. It'll help a lot. I'm trying to do this for a living. I'm trying to get my numbers going so I can do. This has always been my dream, and it would just really help me out if you started liking and subscribing to my videos. Thanks again, and I think I'll have one more video before the end of the night.